welcome to welcome to this webinar specially organized by Suvichar think tank in Chandigarh along with Vibrant Networking Forum members. It's my pleasure and privilege to welcome once again, just as we did last year, sir, General VP Malik, former Army Chief. Welcome, sir.
Thank you.
And Dr. H.K. Bali, who is an eminent cardiologist and a really strong motivator himself. Dr. Bali.
Thank you.
So, just to give a background and recap of what we have been doing in Suvichar. Suvichar is a think tank which has been involved with upliftment of society and handling issues in terms of providing solutions, ideas, discussions, debates in various fields. And Suvichar has been active in the last 4 or 5 years. Our members are all, if I may say so, jokingly, except me, they're all distinguished in their respective fields, and they are all adept and capable of ideating, of coming up with thought leadership. And we have been in the recent past focusing on education, the youth, healthcare. We even gave a report to the chief secretaries on these issues all over India. And Suvichar also gave a report to the Punjab government, the Haryana government, and the UT Chandigarh administration on the unlock procedure last year when we gave some recommendations on behalf of Suvichar. We also held many webinars, and last year, General Malik and I and Mr. Vipin Pabbi, former editor, who's also a member, we were on a webinar on resilience in difficult times. And today's topic is very similar, much needed, much required, mental toughness even in tough times. As you know, the pandemic has swept the world and swept India in the second wave recently. And Dr. Bali will tell us, I'm sure, that it is also, apart from the virus and its physical impact, it is also the mental impact, which is really, really debilitating at times. And even people, perhaps as a layman, even I can say that those who could have seen through the crisis, it is because of the environment of negativity and depression and losing faith that even lives are lost at times. And definitely, even those who are not impacted by the virus or the pandemic or the contagion directly, even those people sitting at home, sitting in lockdown, sitting perhaps on the 14th floor flat in Mumbai, or sitting somewhere in a small little room anywhere in India, are feeling low, feeling depressed because of the conditions and the news floating around. What we intend to do through this webinar and through a new initiative which we'll be announcing shortly is to make sure that the motivational flag is held high, that people remain mentally strong as far as possible. At least the message gets across. At least awareness is created that we need to win the inner battle. And the inner battle is that battle of the mind. And if I may just introduce the topic a little bit, the mind is a place where the battle of life is being held every day. And we often talk about Kurukshetra and the Kauravas and the Pandavas. If for a minute we consider that the Kauravas represent fear, worry, anger, agony, angst, tensions, stress, and the Pandavas represent happiness, balance, calmness, creativity, leadership, resilience, strength, then this battle between the Kauravas and the Pandavas is being fought in our minds every day. And this battle is often won by one or the other army. Every day we find at times we are feeling low at the end of the day. At times we are feeling bad about something. At times we are feeling on top of the world. But in these days, especially, and I have been as a motivational speaker speaking on many platforms, that people need to look within and see what really is upsetting them. What is it that they are worrying about? Worry, said the saint, is a brake. You're pressing the accelerator of your life and you're also pressing the worry brake. How can you move forward? So, therefore, this fear and anxiety, which is natural though, as we are human beings, which is multiplying because of the negativity of news and social media, etc., is to be combated, is to be dealt with. One of the ways that I have been advocating is creative pursuits. If we are writing, reading, singing, playing something, even with family at home, creating some art, some music. All these things give rise to positive thoughts. And Dr. Bali is a doctor, so it's not my purview to say this. But there, as I read, there are four happy hormones, and they are created by eating good food, playing sport, music, company of friends, talking to people you love, saying good things, laughter, happiness. And I think they are serotonin, dopamine, endorphins, oxytocin, something like that. So, what happens is that all these things, even without knowing what they are, we create them when we indulge or take part in positive, versatile, creative pursuits. Sitting in front of a phone or a TV and counting the numbers of patients, of the dead, of others, that is something which is very, if I can say so, hackneyed. It is tough, it is hard on the mind. And if you consider, I'll make only one more point in this introduction. If you consider the patient who is sitting alone at this time, in isolation, in quarantine, not allowed to meet anyone, all he or she has is the smartphone or the phone. What is he reading? What is he consuming? What information, video, or bit of knowledge is he getting? Are we sending him all kinds of, if I may say this very blatantly, black fungus, white fungus, this, that, and the other? I mean, people who are not concerned are doing PhD on these kinds of things without understanding that they don't need to become so knowledgeable about these things which are perhaps not ever going to enter their life zones at all. So, with this thought and with this initiative, and with two gentlemen who are very, very adept and very, very capable in their own fields, General Malik has led the Indian Army. Mental toughness is second nature to a soldier, to an army officer, to a defense services officer. And I know for a fact, having listened to him so many times, that he speaks from the heart and he will inspire all listeners wherever he goes. And Dr. Bali, very, very cheerful at all times, despite his tough role. And doctors have had to go through the most at this time, and their families as well. So, over to Dr. Bali first to speak on the topic for a few minutes of mental toughness and what society should be doing. And then I'll pass it on to General Malik. Over to you, Dr. Bali.
Good evening, Dr. Vivek, for a very good introduction. And it is a pleasure to be with Mr. Malik, who is a national hero. And every time we talk about Kargil War or we talk of national heroes, Mr. VP Malik's name comes foremost amongst them. We have been going through this pandemic for the last 14 months, and the entire world has been affected by it. And you look at newspapers, you look at TV, you look at whatever WhatsApp or whatever social media you have news about the pandemic coming along. And that has set us back. Lives have been lost, economic activity has been affected, and more importantly, for people like Vivek and me, even sports has been adversely affected. Now, that is the challenge which is facing all of us in the last few months. And we need to address this thing and positively impact it. I am a cardiologist, and I have looked at life from very close quarters, at times doing interventions which are very, very high risk, and we have to be mentally very tough to go through those. Sometimes it may be your relative or sometimes very close to you whom you are operating on. Secondly, I have immense interest in sports. And whether it is cricket or whether it is tennis or whether it is badminton, you have to see that people who are at the top of their game, they are mentally hugely tough. And it is toughness which comes over a period of time. And we have to prepare for that, for the ultimate challenge. You might have heard about, Vinod Kambli and Sachin Tendulkar. What differentiates the two is basically the mental toughness. The tougher person gets better off in the long run. It is not only the potential which a person has, but also the mental toughness which differentiates a great man from an average person. We could go on and on for examples in history about mentally tough people doing far better than people who are much more talented. Now, during these times of COVID, Now we are seeing that information bombardment which is taking place, whether it is WhatsApp or social media, even uh, news programs. Every time we are being shown the figures that so many people have got infected, so many have died in which particular country, where is the red curve going, and which areas are being shown the containment. Now, I will give you my personal example. On 18th of March last year, my daughter came from US, and because that was the time when lockdown was being applied, and we were all quarantined. My family was quarantined, and that was probably the most important and most useful days I had in my life. For the last 30 years, I have not spent quality life with my family and with passions which I have on non-medical issues. Now, those 14 days, I was busy with book reading, with listening to music, going back and catching on old movies and old songs, and writing very proficiently. So therefore, it is important. The first and foremost thing to be mentally tough is that you have to be comfortable with yourself, both physically and mentally. I would like to differentiate loneliness from solitude. No, loneliness is something which is imposed on you, and people are uncomfortably lonely. But once you start enjoying your solitude, that makes you very comfortable with yourself, and you can face the challenges in life in a much stronger way. The other part is you should have multiple interests, and it is never late to develop those multiple interests. Now, if you have a unifocal personality, if you're only good in sports or only good in your job, which is your profession, then you are going to be very challenged if you have that particular part being adversely affected. So, therefore, you need to have multiple different hobbies, different passions, different likings, and knowledge about worldly things. So that makes you a multifocal personality, and one factor does not adversely impact you. If you are getting a setback in profession, you have other areas to look forward to. If you're not doing very well in sports, you have other areas to look forward to. Now, coming back to COVID times. Now, in COVID time, we need to understand that this is something which is affecting the entire world. So for some time, we have to understand that the time has slowed down. So it is not that some people are making hugely progress when you are sitting back at home. That is one part of the story. The other part, we need to convince ourselves that this pandemic, whoever is affected, most of the people would recover. Most of the people, 85% would be asymptomatic or complete, very mildly symptomatic, and they would recover. Out of the rest, 15% also, almost 90% of those 15% with who have symptomatic disease would also recover and make a complete recovery. So that is one thing which we need to find out, that this is a transitory phase, this is a temporary phase, and this phase will pass off. ये वक्त भी गुजर जाएगा. And therefore, it is important to find that whenever we have our colleagues, our friends, our relatives being affected by the disease, we have to tell them about positivity all around. We have to pep them up because of the fact that our immunity, Vivek mentioned about dopamine and serotonin and endorphins and oxytocin and all those hormones. They are very important for combating physical disease as well. So therefore, we don't have to be positive ourselves. We have to be positive to our colleagues, our family members, and to other people as well. And that will make us stronger in combating this disease and coming out victorious. So therefore, it is important to maintain a positive impact and catch up on things. When life has slowed down, when you are indoor, to catch up on things which are lost for months to years, be it sports, cultural activities, or any other hobbies you have. You can catch up with them, and you can spend quality life with your family members, with your kids, with your mother. You may not have spent a time with your parents for a very long period of time. You might be saying that tomorrow I will talk to my parents, or maybe when I have some time, I'll talk to my parents. This is the time when you need to spend that quality time with your parents, your children, with your spouse, and all that. The other factor which is important is that we should feel that people who are around us, they are probably more adversely impacted than we are. and they need our support much more than we ourselves need. And that must reflect in our body language, in what we talk, and how we present ourselves to the outside world. People who are working with us in maybe staff at home, or people who are working under you at your job, they are looking up to you to have that positive feeling. So therefore, we can't drop our shoulders, and that will only come if we are comfortable with ourselves. Uh, we talk about social distance. I have been very strong advocate since onset of pandemic that we should not be talking of social distance. We should be talking of physical distance. Socially, we need to be close to each other at this time. Through the whatever media we have, we need to be close to each other, talk to each other, spend time on phone or social media to pep other people. The last thing I would like to say is, please do not watch too much of news which is coming on at the national, at the international level. That is all spreading negativity. That is mostly half-baked truth. You are not medical people. You are not persons who are going to understand what this black fungus is and what it impacts. It is the job of the scientists. It is job of the policymakers. It is job of the doctors to look for that and treat it. And do not believe in what WhatsApp university. Shun WhatsApp university. Stop if you get a fake message at your level. Do not forward it, and report that if that is adversely impacting the health of people. And make it a point that you will only forward or receive those WhatsApp messages which spread positivity. World War First came, Second came, Partition of India came, 1962 came, 65 came, 71 came. We all overcame that. The world has been full of history of tragedies for humanity. Man has come out stronger with that, and that is where the positivity plays a role. I think we should all be together in spreading this positivity to all people around to see through this pandemic. Thank you.
Dr. Bali, very, very well said, extremely from the heart. And I can see that you really feel strongly about the subject. And very true, whatever you said. I'm sure that General VP Malik is going to feel that you have covered all the points that he wanted to talk about. But over to you, sir. Over to you for your inspiration and inputs.
Thank you, Dr. Bali. Thank you, Vivek. I must say that it's been very informative and a very interesting talk by Dr. Bali, and very practical points. As a doctor, what he has said about the impression that we get after watching TV shows and watching the social media, etc., how true it is that most of us get depressed. And I always believe that a large number of half doctors who come up giving us the statistics and giving us all the, we don't want to become half doctors. I'm better off as a layman and trust people like you when it comes to medicine. Thank you very much once again. Today the talk is basically motivating the motivators and on the mental toughness. So as far as motivating the motivators is concerned, I must say that unless you are mentally tough, you can't be a motivator. And I would just name three things when it comes to motivational talks. The first is that in a situation like this that we are facing today, the first thing is that you must be a likable person. Keep a smile on your face all the time. As Dr. Bali said, that we are going through tough times, and that should bring out the toughness in us, also a smile in us, so that the others get motivated and the others get inspired from us. So the first thing I'm saying is that be a likable person, and it reminds me of what one of the saint she said always meet others with a smile, and for the smile is the beginning of love. So that smile is absolute essential. I'm talking of Mother Teresa. She had mentioned this in one of her talks. So that is, so you want to exude love, smile should be on your face. That is the most important thing. The second thing I would say is that, when you are dealing with people, they would be younger, they would be your colleague, your age group, they would be your elders. Be very appropriate in talking to them. Give respect to your elders. Show your friendship to your colleagues and show your love to the people who are younger to you. I think dealing appropriately is very important. You don't have to be bossy in these times. That's the wrong thing to do. But you have to be encouraging them, enthusing them to do whatever you think is the right thing to do. And the third thing, as I think Dr. Bali has emphasized time and again, is to think positively. We have gone through tough times earlier. The older we are, like me, we have gone through all kinds of wars, or all kinds of natural calamities, all sorts of hazards we have gone. ये भी निकल जाएगा. I'm quite certain. And jaldi nikal jayega. I think देर भी नहीं लगेगी. So think positively and make others with whom you are interacting, make others also to think positively. So thinking positively is an important aspect. Now I come to the mental toughness part of it. I think that's an extremely important, and this is one thing which people like me, we have gone through this right from the time I started wearing uniform to go to NDA, and when I went to NDA, and there our seniors and our instructors, drill instructors, weapon training instructors, they used to make us go through tough times to make us tough. And it was sometimes a light punishment. भाग के जाओ उधर, खड़े हो जाओ उधर, हाथ ऊपर करो, do front roll, do back roll, all kinds of things. But that was to induce toughness in us. Mental toughness is extremely important. As a motivator, you are expected to be mentally tough as well as physically tough. So both these aspects are important. Physical toughness brings out the mental toughness also in you, because once you have gone through those stages, if you have run for 20 kilometers, I'm sure it is easier for you to run again for 25 kilometers. But if you have not run at all, you will be found wanting. So those kind of things are important. And the other aspect that I want to mention now, mental fitness or mental toughness. Basically, there are three aspects in that. The first is resilience. That is important. What is resilience? Is your ability to stand up even after you have gone through a very difficult time. I can only give you my own example of the war that we fought. I can tell you that 15-20 days of Kargil war, the first 15-20 days were really tough for us. We went through all kinds of, casualties were occurring, and we didn't know whether we'll be able to retake all those heights, etc. But we were determined that we have to do our work. And that's what we did. So I always say that you should have the ability. I'm not talking about myself, but I'm talking of the entire Indian Army. In fact, I would say entire the country, that we have that resilience that yes, we can throw them back. It doesn't matter. These chaps are trying to make a fool of us. We'll do better. So resilience is very important, to be able to stand up when others think that you are down. It's like a Bollywood hero. Bollywood hero will never be out. He will always come up, even if you keep thrashing him, keep shooting at him, do whatever but he will come up and he will win the heroine anytime. So you have to be resilient. That is an important aspect. The second aspect, I think, is self-belief. You must believe in yourself. If you have done those tough times and if you have gone through that, you must have that belief in you that we will get over these challenges. When you are confident, when you believe in yourself, then a challenge becomes an opportunity. Whatever kind of challenges. All around us, there are challenges. Till the other day, I was going for a walk for about 40 minutes or so. And then I said, look, I'm doing nothing at all. I need to challenge myself. I should do much more than that. And today I can do, I can continue to walk for much longer than that. So you keep on challenging yourself, and you will keep on getting confidence, challenging in every way. Whatever little you do or you have not been doing earlier. I think that's an important state of mind, that you keep on challenging yourself in whatever you are doing or what you have not been able to do, and now it is in front of you. So that is important for mental toughness. And the third, of course, is the dedication and sense of responsibility that you have. Dedication can be professional. All of us, there's a doctor, there's an IS man, a person like me in the armed forces. We have that dedication there. Whatever work that you're doing, with great dedication, totally willing and totally immersed into that, to be able to give the best that we have in our. Sense of responsibility comes. It is not that the netas should have the sense of responsibility. Each one of us needs to have that sense of responsibility. My younger brothers, my sisters, my colleagues, my elders, we have to have a sense of responsibility to look after them. And the sense of responsibility is not only limited within the family, it is also to your organization, to your, mahalla, or wherever you are. There is a certain sense of responsibility. What in the armed forces we call it duty. It becomes a duty for us. Let me also tell you one thing. Why do we lose more officers proportionately in a war? The young officers in particular. Sense of responsibility. I would even go to the extent of saying that a large number of our casualties in wars are not because they themselves wanted to face a bullet, but because they found on the right and left people were getting hurt. So that motivated them to go and face the bullet. That's a sense of responsibility of your colleagues, of your team that you have. So that becomes an important aspect. And as Dr. Bali said, there is a sense of responsibility that you have for people who are working with you, who are around you. As he was saying, that we are much better off today. We have all the facilities, we have all the privileges, but there are a very, very large number of people who do not have these things. And we have a sense of responsibility. We should have a sense of responsibility to look after them in whatever way, in whichever way you can. And that is an important aspect today. And I suppose that is the way we should motivate ourselves and motivate others who are with us everywhere else. So with that, I just want to finish because a lot has been said. Vivek, I'm happy that you are organizing these webinars. We are all Suvichar members are organizing these webinars, and we should have as many as possible. And I'm also very happy that all our colleagues, they will be participating in all these things. Today it is me and Dr. Bali, but we will also have others coming up, like Mrs. Neelam Mansingh, Ms. Neena Singh, Mr. V.K. Kapoor, ex-DGP, Professor R. Vatas, Ashok Tandon, our friend, Mr. Sareen, Max Sareen, the well-known lawyer here, Vipin Pabbi, and Samir Goel, who is looking after the Infosys here in Chandigarh. So we have a good team working on it, and I'm sure they will be able to contribute a lot more to motivate people, to make sure that everybody gets over any kind of stress. I must also mention one more thing about stress. A lot of questions are asked whenever I speak to people. How did you get over the stress that you had during the war? And I count three things in that. I said the first thing, I would say that all of us are believers. We believe in God, or whichever God we. So we all are believers, and many of us do meditation, all kinds of things that we do, looking at the God Almighty. The second thing is the family. I have always found that the family is a stress buster, and the best stress buster because they are sitting next to you and they can communicate and that. So your family, have that good connection with the family. Make sure that you look after them, and then they will look after you. And the third thing is, of course, your colleagues, your friends, whether they are cricketing partners or they are in your own profession, or your social friends, as Dr. Bali was saying, that keep in communication with them. Social distance is okay, but it doesn't mean social communication should. Today we can talk to each other, all our friends, whether it is video calls or even just the normal calls, and we should remain in communication with everybody. That's also an important aspect of being able to motivate and keep yourself motivated. Thank you very much, Vivek. Over to you.
Thank you very much, sir. This was very, very inspiring, and particularly the personal example that you gave and how we should be motivated at all times. And I totally like what you said about family. I mean, family is a unit which is so strong, especially in a country like India, where family is the bedrock of society. And I think the three men out here, but I must say that the ladies, the women of this country have really stood strong in all turbulent times. And the family has been held together by their strength. There have been tensions in this past 1 year also in many homes, many houses, many families. But the ladies and their resilience has held strong and held the families together. And also, I'd like to mention the doctors once again. The doctors, the medical fraternity, those at the forefront of this battle against the pandemic, whether it is the ambulance driver, whether it's the attendant, the ward boy, the chai wala, whoever's working in the hospital, and then these patients coming one after the other, so many people coming in, and so much of it's like a war going on at times, and so much happening all the time. So it's very, very important for us to give them the motivation that they need. Because I also know from some of my doctor friends, and though Dr. Bali is such a cheerful, gung ho personality, there may be some who are feeling low among the medical fraternity, and they have to see day in and day out these things. So inspiring them, motivating them, and even a policeman or an army officer doing his duty at the border at this time, and then he's worried about his family, and then there is as you mentioned, the civil servants who are often vilified in many ways, but they are also at it and they're working hard. Everybody is trying to do their best against this. So we need to inspire them, motivate them, and back them. Secondly, what General Malik just declared and talked about, and I also mentioned, a network of motivators, motivating the motivator, is what Suvichar is going to do in the coming weeks. This is the beginning. We will share these with everybody. We will try to get young motivators, even school students at it. They will motivate their family, their neighbors, their friends. Because we also know that a large number of people or youngsters are undergoing depression because of the competitive stress coupled with the pandemic, the uncertainty. We also know that class 12 students who could not go to school in the whole of class 12, they were sitting before the camera. Whereas it used to be such a memorable occasion in our lives, class 12, the last year in school, the final year of college, and it's tough on the mind. We just, I mean, it is a good substitute, but really, when you miss that classroom atmosphere, etc., it is telling on your mind. Motivation is the key word, and that is needed by all in society, and we must all pool in our efforts, and that is why General Malik and Dr. Bali so graciously accepted this, and all are members of Suvichar. So I would appeal through Suvichar to everybody, all networks, all colleges, students, doctors, officials, keep inspiring others and go ahead and spread the positivity that you can. I'm going to go to Dr. Bali and General Malik for their final closing remarks and more thoughts before we close this session. And we also want that we should end on a high, in the sense that everybody should leave with the feeling that we can be buoyant and mentally tough, come what may. That is the feeling that we need to leave with everybody. Dr. Bali.
I think, as Malik just very rightly said, this toughness, mental toughness starts very early in life, and it is a continuous process. Each day we become tough. And if you look at history of people world over, there was a story about Stalin. He was writing a letter, and he heard that his son had died, and he paused for a second, and then he continued writing. Now, that mental toughness occurs over a period of time and is a continuous process of practicing again and again. We see Virat Kohli's cover drive or Sachin Tendulkar's stay drive, and we forget that hours and days and months have gone into practicing that shot before we see the final shot on the TV. So each one of successful people world over have done the same thing over and over and over again. People say that it is luck or it is destiny. There is very little role of luck or destiny. It is some talent. On top of it, it is hard work of repeating the same thing and making you tough. That under the circumstances, you have faced that situation in an artificial way for years before you actually face it on the ground or in real life. Now, if I perform an angioplasty, this is not something which I'm doing on that particular day and getting out of it. We've seen complications, we've seen gone through it, manage it time and over again. And therefore, whatever happens on a given day is something which is routine for a doctor. Similarly, for an army man, what happens on the war zone, he has been tuned physically and mentally to react to that reflexly. So therefore, we need to develop that mental toughness over a period of time. But it is never late to start. And that is more important now. The other thing we need to find out is that, as Dr. Malik very rightly said, we have gone through tougher times. History has gone through tougher times. You look at Slovakia, the genocide which happened in Slovakia. You look at what is happening in Palestine, which has happened for last 30 years in Palestine. People have come out of that and done wonderfully well. You look at Jews, the persecution of Jews which occurred in Germany just before the Second World War, and they are the top people today world over. So this is mental toughness is something which we must induce and develop in all our children. What I see these days is that many of our next generation children are spoon fed. We agree to everything they ask for. We look for a soft option for them. I think that is where it is hurting us. We need to go through the tough way to strengthen us physically and mentally. Physical health is as important as mental toughness. As again, General Malik very rightly said, if you are physically fit, you can talk of mental fitness and mental toughness. Both of them go together. So exercise, and I will not hesitate to say that yoga is an extremely good mechanism of both physical fitness and mental toughness. So concentration, hard work, repetition, enjoying the moment, every moment, har lamha gira kahin, wahan daastan bani. So each and every lamha we need to enjoy and live into it, and that will what will give us mental toughness. And I will not hesitate to repeat myself that develop multiple interests, hobbies, and passions. If something goes down, the others are there to back you up. And you must do the same thing for our school children. Tell them that academic excellence is only part of the personality development. We need a holistic, strong personality. Most of the people who are toppers in 10th and 12th class, if you follow their trajectory over the period of time, probably they don't do that well. It is a moderately good person who is consistently good who will succeed in the long run. So we need people who have a rounded personality and who are strong in multiple areas to succeed in life. And that mental toughness would help us tide over this pandemic also.
Wonderful thoughts, Dr. Bali. Absolutely wonderful thoughts. Very motivating, very correct. And General Malik, over to you for your closing remarks, sir.
I'd like to sum up really from a personal experience that we had during Kargil war during the earlier days. There were many people, their faces, they're looking down, hoga, nahi hoga, kaise hoga, including netas and my own colleagues also. And of course, there were some soldiers. So when I went, I used to go there and I used to address people. I spoke to them very little, but one of my uh, uh, useful and frequent sentence used to be that, look, the enemy has started the war, but we shall fire the last shot and the war will end on our terms. So that indicated whatever I wanted to convey, the motivation part, the toughness part, the mental. But these are the kind of messages that we need to convey during our difficult times. Those were difficult times initially, but then we came out victor from that. And that is what is required. Think positively once again. And any of us, any person who has not gone through, who has not taken the vaccine, for heaven's sake, please take that. I think that is an absolutely important thing. I still read once in a while, some people who are hesitant to take that. I think that would be foolish not to take that vaccine today. You have that opportunity. Luckily, we are not so badly off in Panchkula and Chandigarh. Most people are able to get. The younger generation, younger people are finding it it will take a little time, but I am sure we will get over that situation. So it's a pleasure talking to all of you, and thank you, Vivek. Over to you.
Thank you, sir. This was a wonderful 42 minutes that we spent. And Dr. Bali, this is not 42 all out, it is only the beginning. And I'm sure that the love for sport which you have exuded and the examples that General Malik has given from his own service and life, I think we are on really the right track to motivate and inspire the society. I can see comments from many people in the chat box, and I will name the ones I can see right now. The ones already gone, I can't see now. Colonel D.S. Chima, Dr. Vikas Pada, the Neha Diwan, Ashish Sharma, Mohit Malik, and even from America, Wanda Lancaster. So we have some wonderful people joining in for this webinar. That is the beauty of technology. Anyone, anywhere can switch on, tune in, and be part of this experience. Also, this recording will be available later. And just for your information, General Malik and Dr. Bali, we have gone live on 3 channels simultaneously: LinkedIn, Facebook, and YouTube. So lots of people have been able to view this webinar already. And therefore, just in closing, that Suvichar will continue to organize these webinars. So watch this space, stay on a high, motivate others, become motivators yourself, and share your positive thoughts wherever you can. Thank you so much for joining us, General Malik and Dr. Bali. Thank you and all the best.
Thank you, Vivek. Thank you, Dr. Bali.